So we can't calculate it. Two unknowns are there, one equilibrium, one equation, we can't calculate those two unknowns here. Okay, to calculate the two unknowns, minimum two equations are required. But in this problem, only one equilibrium equation is there, that is sigma h is equal to 0. Now, one more equation is required here. That equation I am calling as a compatibility equation. Compatibility equation here. Okay, one more equation is required to calculate those unknowns here. But whereas in the previous problems here, suppose for example, we can look at this problem here. In the previous problem, only one support is there, one reaction is there, one equilibrium equation is there, that is sigma h is 0. Then okay, we can find out the reactions very easily. Algebraic sum of this one, which gives the reaction at A here. But whereas in this one, it is somewhat difficult to find out the reactions. In the case number 5, it is somewhat difficult to find out the reactions. Okay, please identify what is the compatibility equation. Yes. Okay, from this diagram here, suppose for example at point C, there is a load P is acting. Due to that load here, AC member gets elongate and CB member gets contract. CB member gets contract here. Okay, how much elongation occurs in AC bar is equal to, okay, how much contraction occurs in the CB bar. Both are equal because there is no elongation or contraction at fixed supports. That's why that elongation or contraction occurs internally. Okay, inside this bar only. That's why the elongation of the AC bar is equal to contraction of the CB bar. Okay, now that is the meaning of this one. Deformation in the AB bar is equal to deformation in the AC bar. Sorry, I did a mistake here. Deformation in the AC bar, not a AB here, AC. Sorry, this is a mistake here. Deformation in the AC bar is equal to deformation in the CB. But I am considering the minus. What does it mean here, minus? Because this is the contraction. Okay, hence I am considering the sign here. This is the minus. Now, how to find out the delta AB, deformation in the AB bar? We know that one equation is there. That equation is PL divided by AE. Okay. Now, we can look at this diagram here. Okay, AB, how much load is acting here? RA load is acting here. So, RA load is RA. And what is the length of that? A. So, A divided by AE. In the same fashion, here minus, okay, how much load is acting on BC member here? Okay, BC member, that is equal to, okay, RB. That too, it is compression. That's why I'm considering as a minus into B, because that is the length is equal to B here, divided by AE. Okay, divided by AE. From this one, we will get the one relation. Okay, RB is equal to AE get cancelled. Then it becomes RB is equal to RA into A by B. RA into A by B. Okay, now how many equations are available? Two equations. One is RA plus RB is equal to P. Another one is RB is equal to RA into A by B. Okay, now two equations are available. We have the two unknowns. By using these two equations, we can calculate those two unknowns here. Now, here we may get a one doubt here. Sir, how to draw these diagrams here? How we can answer this is the tension, this is the compression like this here. Please look at from this one, we can draw the free body diagram here. Okay, the load acting at a point C is equal to P here. The load is acting at a point C, that is equal to, this is C. I did a mistake here. This is C, this is B here. Okay, point C, P load is acting. Okay, this P load is tensile for AB. AC, tensile for AC. That's why here the reaction is also tensile nature, RA. Here, this is compression for CB member. That's why here RB is in the compressive nature. And also we know that, okay, very simple. One statement is there. The reactions are always opposite to the external loads. Now we can look at here, the external load is towards right side. The reactions are towards left side. That's all. Yes. We know that how to draw the individual members and represents the, okay, reactions as well. Whatever it may be, the external loads already we discussed here. This is the AB and it can be divided to the two supports here. This is the RA and here also RB. This is the compressive nature RB and this is RB. Okay. After draw the diagrams here, we can follow this procedure. Now we have the two equations here. Okay, from these two equations, just we can substitute the, okay, RB value in the equation number 1. RB value. RB means RA into A by B here. I can substitute like this. Finally, we will get RA is equal to PB by L and RB is equal to PA by L. These two reactions are very important. RA is equal to PB by L and RA is equal to PB by L and RB is equal to PA by L. But in the examination, okay, A value is given and B value is given here. A value is given, B value is given. Suppose A is equal to 3, B is equal to 5, then L becomes A plus B, that is equal to 8 here. And also we can P load is given. From this P load we can find out the, okay, P is given, B is given, L is given. We can find out the RA and RB. Yes. After calculating the reactions, we can calculate the stresses and deformation. Okay, it is like a statically determined problem. Same. You know the RA. How to find out the stresses here? We know it has some cross-sectional area, and there is a load here. This RA divided by cross-sectional area, which gives the sigma A. Okay, this cross-sectional area divided by, okay, here suppose for example it is prismatic, the cross-sectional area of the both AC and CB both are same. Okay, like that we can calculate the stresses, like that we can calculate the deformation. Okay, finally I conclude. Okay, in the engineering mechanics or strength of the material or structural analysis or machine design, any subjects which are related to the strength of the material is in the civil engineering or is in the mechanical engineering, no problem. Please understand one thing here. Okay, suppose for example one structural problem is given. First we can draw the free body diagram like this. We can draw the, okay, free body diagram like this here. We can draw the free body diagram like this here. After draw the free body diagram, okay, in that free body diagram, we can represent the number of reactions here. Yes, here there is a 2 reactions and RA and RB. How many equilibrium equations are available? Okay, in this problem, it may be the 1 equilibrium equation is available. Yes, like that, first we can identify how many number of reactions are available, how many equilibrium equations are there in that particular problem. Thereafter, suppose for example, number of equilibrium equations is equal to the number of unknown reactions. Okay, R is equal to the E, or at least R is less than the E. Then that kind of problems we are calling as a statically determined problem. Suppose for example, R is greater than E, then that kind of problems we are calling as a statically indeterminate problems. Okay. What is the difference between these two? Okay, we can calculate the reactions. It is very easy to calculate the reactions in the statically determined problem. It is somewhat difficult to calculate the reactions in a statically indeterminate problem. In the statically indeterminate problem, the number of equilibrium equations are not sufficient here. One more equation is required. That equation we are calling as a compatibility equation. That equation we can identify. From this problem, we can identify that equation. Very simple. Okay, the deformation in the AC member is equal to deformation in the CB member. Very simple. Okay. Okay, that is the difference here. Not only the bar here. Okay, there is a statically determined beams are there, statically indeterminate beams are there, statically determined shafts are there, statically indeterminate shafts are there, statically determined frames are there, statically indeterminate frames, trusses, like that here. Okay, so first we can identify statically determined or statically indeterminate problem. Hello, students. Hello. Could you understand this problem? Yes, please remember statically determined and statically indeterminate. Okay, after calculating the reactions, okay, you can follow the stresses. To calculate the stresses and deformation, we can follow the statically determined problems like that only. I am not going to discussing about that. Okay, yes, this is about the simple stresses and strains, first topic. This is about simple stresses and strains. This is the first topic here. If you have any doubts here, we can ask after completing the class here. And next one, the second chapter, shear force and bending moment diagrams. This is a very important topic in the strength of the material. Not only in the strength of the material, in the structural analysis or any other related to the strength of the material, machine design like this here, the shear force and bending moment diagrams knowledge is very important. But most of the students, we can calculate the shear force and bending moment diagrams here, but some areas are there. Okay, we can't understand why we are considering this value, Why I am not considering like this here? We can't understand here. Okay. Now, no doubt in that all, I can explain clearly. Okay. No, there is no compromise in the shear force and bending moment diagrams. Okay. But we can do one thing here. We can solve the number of problems. Okay. But I am always focusing on that difficult areas. That difficult areas, I am going to focusing on the difficult areas here. Okay. Yes. Shear force and bending moment diagrams. In the simple stresses and strains, 1 minute, sorry. Sorry. In simple stresses and strains, okay, we design a bar. Okay, we design a bar. We have learned how to find out the stresses. After finding the stresses here, we know how to identify the maximum tensile stress and maximum compressive stress or maximum shear stress. Thereafter, compare with the strength of the material. And in the same fashion, we know how to find out the deformation also. Yes, that deformation is more, that member we are calling as a less stiffer member. Okay, deformation is less here, then it is called as a more stiffer member. We already learned, we have learned how to find out the stresses and deformation in the bar. Now, we are going to find out the stresses and deformation in the beams here. Okay, here also same procedure. To design the member, these criteria we are going to follow: strength criteria, stresses, and stiffness criteria, deformation. Okay, that's why shear force and bending moment diagrams, shear stresses, bending stresses, deflection of beams. These 4 topics are related to the beams. That is the very important point. These 4 topics are related to the beams here. But in the shear force and bending moment diagrams, we are not calculating the stresses. We are not calculating the deformation. But to calculate the stress, some parameters are required. To calculate the deflection, some parameters are required. Those parameters we can calculate in shear force and bending moment diagram. We know that. I think we are very familiar with SFD and BMD. In the shear force and bending moment diagrams, always we can calculate shear force at various points and bending moment at various points. After calculating the shear force at various points, we can identify the maximum shear force in that beam. After calculating the bending moment at various points, we can identify the bending moment at various points. Sorry, we can identify the maximum bending moment in that beam. Okay. Ultimately, in SFD and BMD, we can calculate the maximum shear force and maximum bending moment in that given beam. Yes. But we may get a one doubt. Sir, what is the use to find out the maximum shear force and maximum bending moment? Those values are very important to calculate the shear force, bending moment, shear stresses, bending stresses, and deflection of beams. We know, okay, bending stress. Okay, F is equal to M by Z, na formula. Bending stress F is equal to M by Z. What is meant by the M here? Where M is equal to maximum bending moment in that beam. How to find out that one? That value we can find out from shear force and bending moments only. And in the same fashion, to calculate the shear force, one formula is there. Tau is equal to F A Y bar divided by IB, where F is equal to maximum shear force. Where F is equal to maximum shear force here. In the same fashion, to calculate the bending, deflection of beams here, WL cube divided by 3A, WL cube divided by 3A, WL cube divided by 48A. That kind of formulas we are using here. Okay, to calculate the deflection also, moment is very important thing. Moment. We can calculate the moment here. That's why, okay, from the shear force and bending moment diagram, we can calculate the maximum shear force and maximum bending moment for a given beam. Yes, very, very important topic. Okay, if you have sound knowledge in the SFD and BMD, in the strength of the material, the remaining topics will be very easy. Not only the strength of the material, this knowledge is very useful in the structural analysis, okay, and machine design for mechanical engineers, or RCC, steel, this knowledge is very useful. So listen carefully. Yes. Now, what I said here, these 4 topics are related to the beam. First, please understand what is meant by the beam. Yes, we can look at here. Please look at the definition of the beam. Beam is a member which is subjected to transverse load. Yes, I am considering the one member. On this member, transverse load W is acting. That's why this member I am calling as a beam. On the same member, there is an axial load is acting. Then this member is not called as a beam. This member is called as a bar. On the same member, there is a twisting moment is acting. Then it is called as a shaft. Okay. Okay. Already I told that in the introduction class. Okay. The member is look like this. Sometimes it is called as a bar. Sometimes it is called as a beam. Sometimes it is called as a shaft also. Don't think like that. It is in a rectangular cross section, it is called as a beam. It is in a circular cross section, it is called as a shaft. No, whatever it may be the shape, no problem. Whatever it may be the color, no problem. Dimensions, no problem. But very important to identify the member, the direction of the load is important. Axial load, it is called as a bar. Transverse load, beam, and twisting moment, it is called as a shaft. That's why please, this is the very important here, transverse load. This is the very important here. Transverse loads are acting on a member, then it is called as a beam. For example, we know that beams in the buildings is the best example for beam here, and shaft is also best example for beam here, and dam, it is also a best example for beam here. But actually here the dam is in a vertical position. No problem. Don't think like that. The beam is always in horizontal position. Sometimes it is in inclined position, sometimes it is in vertical position, sometimes it is in horizontal position. No problem. It is independent on position, it is in any position, but it is subjected to the transverse load, then it is called as a beam here. Suppose, for example, there is a vertical member is there. If the load is acting horizontally, that load can I call as a transverse load or not? Yes, we can call as a transverse load. Like that. Suppose, for example, dam. We know that the dam is always, it is in a vertical position. On the dam, there is a pressure force is acting due to the water. That pressure force is a transverse load. That's why that is also considered as a beam here. While constructing the dam, first we can design. Based on the beam here, based on the design of the beam, we can we can consider the dam as a beam here. Then we can design, and then we can construct here how much pressure force is acting through the water. Like that. In the nature, so many members are there acting as a beam here. So many members. Just I am considering the only 3 to 4 members only. That is the meaning of beam here. So finally, I conclude one by one sentence here. Beam is a member which is subjected to the transverse load. This is the first sentence. Second sentence, the beam is in any position. It is in vertical position, it is in horizontal position, it is in inclined position, no problem. Just if the beam is subjected to transverse load, that's all. That member is subjected to the transverse load, that's all. That's the second point. And the third point here, due to the transverse load, here there is a W is there, transverse load. Due to the transverse load, the beam is subjected to the shear force and bending moment. The beam is subjected to the shear force and bending moment due to the transverse load here. Next one, types of loads acting on the beam here. Types of loads. Yes, the loads are classified into the 3 types here. One is the point load here, second one is the distributed load, and third one is the couple. The loads are point load, distributed load, and point load and distributed load, and couple like this here. This distributed load is further classified into the uniformly distributed load and uniformly varying load. But one thing you remember, if you read some standard textbooks here, the loads are classified into the different way. But I am not considering that flow chart here. Just I am considering the simple flow chart which are using only in the strength of the material. Only we are using this kind of loads only. That's why I am considering just a simple flow chart. But actually, how to distribute the loads here is, This distributed load further classified into the uniformly distributed load, non-uniformly distributed load. That non-uniformly distributed load is uniformly varying load, non-uniformly varying load. And couple also, there is a concentrated couple, distributed couple. Again, distributed couple is uniformly distributed couple, non-uniformly distributed couple, like this. That is the one lengthy flow chart is there, but I am not considering that one. I am considering simple flow chart only in the examination. Also, this kind of loads we are considering on the beam only. Okay, very simple. Now I am going to explain one by one here. First one, point load and the concentrated load. Okay, this is the very important definition. Just most of the students answer what is meant by the point load. The load which is acting at a point, it is called as a point load. Okay, most of the faculty also they can answer like this only. What is meant by the point load? It is a load which is acting at a point. But I think some local standard textbooks also, okay, they can follow this same statement only. It is the load which is acting at a point. Okay, please remember, if you understand it is the load which is acting at a point, just we can remember like this. Okay, we are facing the so many difficulties to calculate the SFT and beam. So first difficulty, I said that some difficulties are there. Okay, I am focusing on those difficulties. Okay, in that first one, point or concentrated load. Okay, listen. Okay, we can look at this statement here. It is the load which is acting on a small area which is considered as a point. This is called as a point load. It is a load which is acting on a small area. Okay, suppose for example one beam is there like this here. Okay, on that beam, don't think like that point load means it is the it is the load which is exactly acting at a point. That is absolutely wrong. Maybe the statement we can read theoretically, practically it is not possible. Practically how it is possible, how it is possible to apply the load at a point here. Okay, point means just we can use the knife edge. Knife edge is a point. Can you apply the load like this here? Is it possible in the beams? Not possible. That load is acting on a small area. Okay, that small area we are considering as a point. That is the very important. Suppose I will tell you one example. One shaft is there. On the shaft, okay, there is a one pulley is there. Pulley on the shaft, there is a one pulley is there, or on the shaft there is a one gear is there. Okay, that gear self weight is acting on a small area of that shaft, but the self weight of that gear is considered as a point load while solving the problem. The self weight of that pulley is considered as a point load which is acting on that. Okay, like that. Okay, which is acting on a small area. That load, that kind of load we are calling as a point load. That's why all loads are distributed loads, brother. All loads are distributed loads. Actually, there is no point load. This is only theoretical statement only. All loads are distributed load. Okay, point load is a one kind of uniformly distributed load which is acting on a small area. Small area, that is also a distributed load. Okay, that is the meaning of point load. It is the load which is acting on a small area which is considered as a point. That small area in the theoretically we are considering as a point. Okay, that is the meaning of point load here. Now we can look at here. The simply supported beam is subjected to the 3 point loads W1, W2, W3. Don't think like that it is acting exactly at a point like a knife edge here. It is acting on a small area. That's why the uniformly distributed load which is acting on a small area is considered as a point load. Okay. So that all loads are distributed loads only. Very important point here. And also these point loads are expressed in terms of newtons, or it is expressed in terms of kilonewtons here. Next one, distributed load. It is the load which is distributed along the length is called distributed load here. Along the length is called as a distributed load. This distributed load is acting on the beam. Okay, on small area it is called as a point load. It is acting along the length of the beam. that means it is acting some portion of the beam, then it is called as a distributed load here. It is called as a distributed load. That distributed load, sometimes it is acting uniformly. Uniformly means, suppose for example at this point 5 kilonewton per meter, here also 5 kilonewton per meter, here also 5, here also 5. Okay, in the total the shape is look like a rectangle, because the arrowhead, length of the arrowhead, okay, represents the magnitude of the load here. So the length of the arrowheads are equal. That means magnitude of load is also equal. But whereas in the uniformly varying load, not like this here. Uniformly varying load is not like this here. Okay, in this portion, at point C, there is no load here. That load is goes on increases. It is maximum at point D. Okay, and also how it varies uniformly. What does it mean? Okay, suppose for example here is 0, here it is increased by 5, okay, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, like that. That varies uniformly. Sorry, that varies uniformly. Okay, but here is 5, here is 20, here is 21, like that. It does not varies like that. It varies uniformly. That kind of load is called as a uniformly varying load. Just we can look at this statement here. Uniformly distributed load. First we will discuss about uniformly distributed load. It is a load which is distributed uniformly along the length of the beam, is called as a uniformly distributed load, like this here. But one more important point, it is always expressed in terms of Newton per meter or kilonewton per meter. Per meter, how much load is distributed, that is the very important. But whereas in the previous case, point load case here, it is expressed in terms of Newtons here. In terms of Newtons here. Now, one thing you remember, what I said here, in the strength of the, in the SFD and BMD, we can calculate the shear force and bending moment at various points. I told that, various points. But what is meant by the moment, bending moment? Bending moment is nothing but algebraic sum of the moments. Bending moment means algebraic sum of the moments. Okay, algebraic sum of the moments, moment is the bending moment. But algebraic sum of the moments means, first, what is meant by the moment? Moment means, okay, it is the product of force into perpendicular distance. Force into perpendicular distance. Okay. That perpendicular distance, how to take that perpendicular distance? That perpendicular distance, it is from the line of action of force to the moment center. Moment center. Suppose, for example, I am considering this point load, brother. Let us assume that this is a hinged support. This is the roller support. No need to assume that. Actually, this is a roller support and this is a hinged support. This is the roller support here. I want to calculate the moment at hinged support. Moment at hinged support. How to calculate the moment at hinged support? Okay, W1, and the distance from this line of action of force to the hinged support, that is called as a moment center. How much distance? That W1 into this distance, W2 into this distance, W3 into this distance. Okay, like that we can take. Okay, we can take the perpendicular distance from line of action of the moment center. But whereas in the uniformly distributed load, there is some difficulties there. Okay, how to take the perpendicular distance? Because suppose, for example, can you take from this end to the A to calculate the moment at A? We can't take it, because this is the distributed load. We can't take the perpendicular distance, because to take the perpendicular distance, okay, let us consider the only one line of action of force. That's why one thing you have to remember, we can't calculate the moments by using the distributed load. Either uniformly distributed load, uniformly varying load, what kind of load, no problem. Is it a distributed load? We can't find out. To find out the moments due to the distributed load, that distributed load is converted into the point load. That is the very important. That distributed load is converted into the point load. That is the very important. That's why Okay, in the problem, distributed load is there. Okay, immediately we can convert the point load. Don't convert in the main diagram, we can convert somewhere. Okay, so here we can observe here. I am considering A, B, this one. Okay, distributed load is some portion is acting L by 2. This length is L by 4. This length is also L by 4 here. Its length is L by 4, this portion of length. And now, yes, how to convert this one is very important. This is also very important thing. First of all, we can look at what is the shape of this. The shape of the distributed load is rectangle. The total load acting on the beam due to the distributed load is equal to area of the load diagram. Total load, how much total load acting due to the distributed load? Very simple. How to find out this one? First, we can identify the shape and we can calculate the area of that shape. Yes, very simple. Now, please answer. What is the shape of this one rectangle? The area of this rectangle is L by 2 is the length. And what is the height of this rectangle? W, small w is the height here. That small w multiply with L by 2, which is equal to WL by 2. So that is the total load. Yes, like that. Very simple. The total load acting on the beam due to the distributed load is equal to area of the load distribution diagram. Very simple. Area. Okay. Thereafter, okay, we can find out how much total load is acting due to the distributed load. But that load is acting at where? That load is acting at where? That is also very important. That load is acting at a centroid of the load diagram. Centroid. We know that is a plane. Rectangle is a one kind of plane. We know that how to find out the centroid for plane. Okay, in the rectangle, the centroid is located at midspan. That means it is exactly located at midspan means, okay, this total length is L by 2. From here to here L by 4. Here to here is L by 4. Like that, we can convert into the point load. Okay, point load. Then we can follow. Suppose if you want to find out the W L by 2 into L by 4 plus L by 4, which is equal to L by 2. W L by 2 into L by 2. Like that, we can find out the moment at A. If you want to find out the moment at B, we can find out. Like that only we can find out here. Okay. In the same fashion, uniformly varying load. It is the load which varies uniformly along the length is called as a uniformly varying load. Here also the same problem. Okay, it is also distributed load. We can't find out the moments by using the distributed load directly. That distributed load is converted into the point load here. Same. How to find out this one? The total load is equal to area of the load diagram. Now it is look like a triangle shape. Then what is the area? Half into W into L here. So half into W into L, which is equal to WL by 2. WL by 2. And how to locate the centroid? Okay, the centroid is located at a distance of L by 3 from the base. Base means this one. This is the base here. Okay, this is the base here. Okay, and at a distance of 2L by 3 from the apex here. Now it is the apex here. So okay, WL by 2 and here L by 3 and here is 2L by 3. Okay. Any kind of distributed load. Okay, suppose sometimes in the problem, there is a semicircular load is given. There is a trapezoidal load is given. Any load, no problem. Okay, we can follow the same procedure. That load is converted to the point load. How to convert? The total load is equal to area of the load diagram and it is acting at a center. Sorry, not a center, centroid. We know that in the engineering mechanics already we learned how to find out the centroid for different shapes of the different shapes here, different planes here, planes, rectangle, triangle, trapezoid, circular, semicircular. We know that how to find out that. Hello, students, could understand uniformly distributed load and uniformly varying load? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Could understand? This is the very important. Why we should convert the point load? We can't calculate the moments by using the distributed load. That's why you can convert the point load. But one thing you remember, to convert the distributed load into the point load, okay, don't convert in the main diagram. Okay, some faculty says that, okay, convert into the main diagram. Don't convert like this. We can convert somewhere. And please strike off. That is only valid for that particular place only. It is not valid for another place here. Okay, immediately we can strike off. Another point, we can draw the another diagram here. That is a very important point. This is the second one. First one, point load definition. Second one is how to convert the distributor into the point load. Here, very simple shapes. Shapes are very important. And next one, couple. Beam is subjected to the couple due to eccentric load. Beam is subjected to the couple due to eccentric load here. Eccentric load is nothing but the load which is not acting at a center, then that kind of load we are calling as a eccentric load here. Just we can look at this diagram. The load is acting somewhere, but this is the center of the beam. It is not acting at this point. Then, okay, we can't calculate the, it is not a transverse load now. It is not a couple, but we don't know how to calculate the shear force and bending moment. Okay, to calculate the shear force and bending moment on the beam, okay, transverse loads and couples, only these two are acting, we can find out. Otherwise, we can't find out. So please remember, if there is an eccentric load is there, okay, that eccentric load is converted into the couple. How to convert into the couple? I think already we learnt in the engineering mechanics also this concept. Eccentric load is converted to the couple. Okay, so we can look at here. Suppose this problem is given. Please remember, not only the beam, okay, any member, okay, how to find out the, okay, sorry, how to convert the eccentric load into the couple? Very simple. First, we can do one thing here. There is a one load is acting here. Please introduce the, okay, at a center scene, please introduce the two dummy forces. This is the procedure, brother. Please introduce the two dummy forces. One dummy force which is acting upward at a point C. Another dummy force which is acting at a point C downward, which is acting downward at a point C. Then we can look at here, those two forces are in the same line, but in opposite nature. That what is the resultant of those two forces? 0. Resultant of those two forces 0. Hence, those two forces I am calling as a dummy forces. Those two forces I am calling as a dummy forces. Dummy forces here I am calling as a. That's why I am calling as a dummy forces. If you are introducing those two forces, is it affected to the problem? It is not. There is no affected. Okay, sorry. The problem is not affected because the resultant is 0. Okay. Yes. After introducing the two dummy forces, one dummy force which is acting upward, here one force is there already. One force is there which is acting downward. These two forces is in a parallel forces in opposite direction. Okay, these two forces can form a couple or not? Yes, it can form a couple. Couple means two equal and opposite parallel forces acting on a member. It can produce a couple. That's why the magnitude of the couple is equal to W into E. Okay, due to this upward force and this force here. And one more force is there, that downward force. Please consider the ast is the downward force here, that W. So due to eccentric load, okay, one transverse load and one couple is there. Then we can follow the procedure. Okay, we will discuss later how to calculate due to transverse load and couple. I will discuss later. That is the meaning of couple. A beam is subjected to the couple due to eccentric load. This is the types of the loads here. Types of the loads acting on the beam. Next one, classifications of the beam. Just now I said that any member can be classified to the two types here: statically determined member, statically indeterminate member. But here we are going to discussing about beam. Hence, I am calling it a statically determined beam, statically indeterminate beam here. What I said here, statically determined beam or bar or shaft, whatever it may be, the R is number of reactions, E is number of equilibrium equations. When we are calling as a statically determined, R is less than or equal to the E. Okay, when you are calling as a statically indeterminate, R is greater than E here. R is greater than E here. Okay. In the statically determined beam, the number of equilibrium equations are sufficient to calculate the unknown reactions. Whereas in the statically indeterminate beam, the number of reactions are not sufficient to calculate the unknown reactions. Okay. The statically determinate beam further classified into the three types here. One is the cantilever beam, second one is the simply supported beam, third one is the overhanging beam. Statical indeterminate beams further classified into the three types here: continuous beam, fixed beam, and propped cantilever beam. Propped cantilever beam. Now, we can look at these free body diagrams. Why we are calling as these three are statically determined? Why we are calling as these three are statically indeterminate? Okay. Cantilever beam. First, please understand what is the definition of the cantilever beam. The students answer like this here. The beam which is fixed, the beam is having the fixed support and one end is free. One end is fixed, other end is free. I think, okay, very famous definition from the students here. Okay, one end is fixed, other end is free. But one thing you remember, when you go to the interviews, don't say like this here. Don't answer like this. One end is fixed, other end is free. That fixed by the any fevikick or fevistick or fevical like this here. Okay. So, okay, please answer when you go to the interviews. We can answer like this only. It is the beam which is supported by the fixed support at one end, and other end is not supported. There is no place that there is no support at the other end. It is free. Free means no supports are there at the other end here. That kind of beam is called as a cantilever beam. That kind of beam is called as a cantilever beam here. Okay. Okay. Yes. Now, this is the graphical representation of the cantilever beam here. Okay, this is the graphical representation. Already I told that how many reactions will be developed at a fixed support here? 3. One is the RH vertical reaction, or horizontal reaction. Second one is the RV vertical reaction. Third one is the M moment reaction. The number of reactions are 3. Number of equilibrium equations are also 3 here. Already I told that. Then R is equal to E. Okay, if R is equal to E, can I call it a statically determined beam? Next one, simply supported beam. Yes. Here, we may get a doubt here. Most of the students also answer like this. What is one of the simply supported beam? One support is hinged here, another one is roller. It is called as a simply supported. First, one thing you remember, when you go to the interviews also, don't say that one is hinged here, another one is roller. We can answer like this. It is the beam which is supported by 2 roller supports or 2 hinged supports or 1 hinged and 1 roller support placed at end of the beam. Placed at ends of the beam. Then it is called as a simply supported beam. Okay, what I said? Both supports are roller, no problem. Both supports are hinged, no problem. Both supports are, one support is hinged, another support is roller, no problem. It is called as a simply supported. It is called as a simply supported beam. But we can look at the textbooks. Okay, any textbooks while solving the problems also. Simply supported beam always supported by the hinged support and roller support only. Sir, why? Why it is supported like this? But you said that 2 rollers, 2 hinged also we are calling this simply supported. But why we are not taking those 2 kinds of supports here? One thing you remember. When compared to the remaining 2 supports, this combination is the best combination for simply supported beam. Why? Suppose, let us assume that this hinged support is roller, this is also roller. Let us assume that both are roller. Okay, suppose on this beam there is a inclined load is acting. Inclined. Okay, inclined load means we know that inclined load is acting. Due to that inclined load, the beam can move. The beam can displace. The beam can displace because roller supports cannot arrest the horizontal displacement. It permits the horizontal displacement. Roller supports only, okay, arrest the vertical displacements only. Okay, it cannot arrest the horizontal displacement. Suppose due to the inclined load, there is a horizontal displacement occurs, it can allow that horizontal displacement. It can permit that horizontal displacement here. Suppose you can permit the horizontal displacement, then if the beam can move, then what happens here? After some time here, there is no support for the left end of the beam. then the beam may collapse. That means if you are considering the two roller support, the beam is not stable. The beam is not stable. Okay, that's why, okay, that two roller supports are placed at the ends. Practically, it is not possible. We can place, but it cannot understand. It cannot withstand the oblique or inclined loads. Second combination. This is hinged. Instead of roller also, if you roller also, we can place the hinged. Let us assume that both are hinged supports. We know that these hinged supports cannot permit the horizontal displacement, cannot permit the vertical displacement also. Both displacements cannot permit here. Suppose, for example, this beam is exposed to sun. This beam is exposed to the sun. In the summer, the temperature, it may be the 40 to 50 degrees. In such a case, the mild steel rods which is placed inside the beam, okay, it is try to expand. And winter, okay, the temperature, it may be the 20 or 25 like this here. Those rods are, it is contract. It is try to contract. It is try to contract. Okay, that means that expansion or contraction occurs horizontally. Na? Expansion or contraction occurs horizontally. If you place the both are hinged supports, that horizontal contraction or expansion, is it permits this hinged support? No. Okay, this end also hinged support, is it permits? No, it cannot permits. That's why if the deformation is not permitted, then the stresses will be developed in the member. Due to that stresses here, the beam may collapse. The beam may collapse here. So that combination is also not suitable for simply supported beam. Not only that difficulty, one more difficulty is at left support is hinged two reactions, right support also hinged here two reactions, then four reactions. R is 4, E is 3, then R is greater than E. Then the problem is also statically indeterminate problem. Now it is not a statically determined problem. Okay, that is the one more difficulty. Suppose if the simply supported beam is supported by the one hinged support and one roller support, we can observe here. Suppose, for example, there is an oblique load is acting on this beam. Yes. Okay, it is try to move horizontally. This roller support can permit, but this hinged support cannot permit. Then that beam is stable. And in the summer and winter, the mild steel rods are try to expand and try to contract. Yes, this roller support is there. This side can permit that expansion or contraction. Then if you permit the expansion or contraction, there is no stresses here. Okay, so it can withstand the oblique loads. Okay, it can permit the thermal expansion or contraction. Hence, the best combination for simply supported beam is one roller and one hinged support. And also two reactions, one reaction, total 3, E is 3, R is equal to E. Okay. Students could understand about the simply supported beam? Hello.
Yes, sir.
If two roller, no problem. Two hinged, no problem. One roller, one hinged. We can theoretically we can call as a simply supported beam. But first two combinations, there is a drawbacks are there. I already explained what are those drawbacks here. Hence, we are considering the one hinged and one roller. We can look at any textbook also. They are considering one hinged and one roller. This one was over. And overhanging beam means it is look like a simply supported beam. The same supports are there, but those supports were placed somewhere, which is not placed at the ends here. We are somewhere. Suppose only one support is placed at the end, other is somewhere here. It is called as a single side overhanging. Two are placed different place, not at the ends here. Then it is called as two sides overhanging. But you can look at the reactions are 3 because same supports are there, and E is equal to 3. Okay, R is equal to E. It is also a statically determined beam here. Next one, statically indeterminate beam, continuous beam here. We know, I think we are very familiar with this. More than 2 supports are there. Sorry, more than 2 supports are there. Then it is called as statically continuous beam here. Then 2, 1, 1. Suppose I am considering the one hinged 2 roller, total 4. E is 3, then R is greater than E here. Okay. And next one, fixed here. Both ends are supported by the fixed support. We know that one fixed support 3, another fixed support is 3, total 6 here. E is equal to 3, R is greater than E. Okay. Next one, propped cantilever beam here. Propped cantilever beam. Okay, propped cantilever beam is the cantilever beam is supported by the roller or hinged support placed at the free end. Roller or hinged support placed at a free end here. Then it is called as a propped cantilever beam. Okay, at the fixed support there is 3. Suppose it is a roller 1, if it is a hinged 2, then R is equal to, if it is a roller, R is equal to 4. If it is a hinged here, R is equal to 5. E is equal to 3, then R is greater than E here. Yes, then R is greater than E here. This is about types of the beams. Okay, statically determined beam and statically indeterminate beams. Okay, thank you. If you have any doubts, we can ask here. And tomorrow, not a tomorrow here, day after tomorrow, Wednesday, there is a class. Don't miss that class here. In that class, I will discuss about shear force definition and bending moment. Very, very, very important class. Day after tomorrow class is very important. Don't miss that class here. If you have any work, we can post for. We can ask the doubts here. Students. Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
You can ask the doubts.
No, sir. No doubts.
No doubts. Yes, I will give the 5 minutes. You can ask. If you have any doubt, you can ask. Yes, okay. Sorry, can I wind up the class? No doubts? Hello, students. No
Yes,
doubts?
sir. No, sir.
సరే, మీరు ఒకటైతే పాయింట్ గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాలి. ఎప్పుడైనా బెస్ట్ స్టూడెంట్ అనిపించుకోవాలి అంటే ఒకసారి ఒక టాపిక్ చెప్పిన తర్వాత అట్లీస్ట్ 5 డౌట్స్ అని అడిగేటట్టున్నాను. అప్పుడే మీకు ఫుల్ ఫ్లెడ్జ్డ్గా అర్థమైనట్టు క్లాస్. మీరు జస్ట్ అండర్స్టాండింగ్ ఈజ్ డిఫరెంట్. ఎవ్రీబడీ కెన్ అండర్స్టాండ్. ఓకే, కానీ ఎవరైతే డౌట్స్ని ఇమ్మీడియట్లీగా మీ అరైజ్ అవుతాయో బ్రెయిన్లో, ఇమ్మీడియట్లీగా ఒక పేపర్ మీద రాసుకోండి. క్లాస్ అయిన తర్వాత మీరు అడగచ్చు. టుమారో క్లాస్ నుంచి అలా చేద్దాము. దయచేసి మీరు ఆ వర్క్ చేయండి. ఎవ్రీబడి కెన్ అండర్స్టాండ్ ద క్లాస్. ఓకే, చాలామంది అర్థం చేసుకుంటారు క్లాస్ అనేది, అది ఇంపార్టెంట్ కాదు. ఓకే, నేను సో మెనీ ప్లేసెస్లో టీచ్ చేస్తూ ఉంటాము. ఓకే, ఎవరైతే గేట్ ర్యాంక్స్ వచ్చినాయి అనేది మాకు చెప్తుంటారో వాళ్ళు కంపల్సరీ ఆఫ్టర్ కంప్లీటింగ్ ద క్లాస్ ఇయర్ వాళ్ళు కంపల్సరీ డౌట్స్ అడిగారు మమ్మల్ని, వాళ్ళకే వస్తున్నాయి. అది గేట్ అనేది అంతది అకాడమిక్స్ లాగా ఉండదు. మీరు కంపల్సరీ మీ బ్రెయిన్ స్ట్రెంత్ కొంచెం ఇంక్రీజ్ చేసుకోవాలి. ఓకే, టుమారో నెక్స్ట్ క్లాస్ నుంచి, టుమారో కాదు డే ఆఫ్టర్ టుమారో, ఓకే, క్లాస్లో దయచేసి మీరు ఏం చేస్తారంటే ఒక పెన్ను ఒక పేపర్ మీ దగ్గర పెట్టుకొని మీకు ఎక్కడైతే డౌట్ వస్తుందో, ఇక్కడ ఇలా ఉంటే ఏమవుతుంది, ఇది ఉంటే ఏమవుతుంది అలాంటి డౌట్స్ని మీరు ఇమీడియట్లీగా రాయండి. రాసిన తర్వాత క్లాస్ అయిన తర్వాత 5 to 10 minutes డిస్కషన్ చేద్దాం. ఓకేనా? హలో, ఓకేనమ్మా?
ఓకే సార్.
Okay, sir.
ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్.